I'd like to call this March 5th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Education to order. Mr. Anagnostou, would you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Mr. Grozan?
Here.
Mr. Micco?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mrs. Hauser?
Here.
All present.
Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to jump in our order just a little bit. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ryba for Human Resources. I believe we have an appointment.
We do, Mr. Micco, thank you, and we'll have Assistant Superintendent Ms. Pelko go through the two items on human resources for us. So Jenny, go for it.
Thank you. Under Human Resources this evening, I have two items for you. One, resignation of a non-certificated staff, and the appointment of a leadership staff member, Mr. Curtis Washington, who is here with us this evening. He will be appointed as our new Assistant Transportation Supervisor. And so we are thrilled to have him here in the district. He actually lives in Strongsville, has kids in our district, and comes to us from the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Did I get that right, Curtis? Yeah. All right. And so where he has extensive transportation experience, he's already hit the ground running this week with us. We've gotten lots of compliments from our drivers, and just excited to have it and thrilled to have him here. He also has, I believe, a master's in psychology, correct? That's impressive. So, Curtis, we're just thrilled to have you. We appreciate you coming here tonight, and along with him is Lori Sinek, our transportation supervisor. So congratulations again, and welcome to Strongsville.
Thank you.
Well, I want to welcome Curtis and tell him how excited we are. We had our State of the Schools report yesterday evening, and part of that was a discussion with community members. And busing and transportation is on the forefront of everyone's mind, so it's good to have you on board, and we look forward to great things. Welcome aboard and good luck.
Thank you.
So at this time, we'll pivot back to our agenda, and we are here at Polaris Career Center, which just finished their upgrade and remodel, so we're here to tour that and experience that. And get us started, we're going to have our superintendent, Bob Timmons, and some of the students get introduced, and then we'll go for a tour.
Well, good evening and welcome to what we are calling the new Polaris Career Center. Believe it or not, you're not on the bank of the Cuyahoga River behind you. This is actually our student restaurant called Savers. So quite a dramatic change. We've actually doubled the amount of seating for our restaurant that the students cook and serve in. So if you're not used to the Polaris food and restaurant, we have some items that you'll be able to enjoy today too. But this is the new Polaris, and today we are thrilled to be able to showcase some of the changes that we have gone over. This building has been turned upside down, inside out with over a $60 million renovation, and we finished that this past October. So in the heat of the construction process, we were the second largest construction process in all of Northeast Ohio. So when you imagine that many people on your facility while we were still in operation, there was a lot going on at that time. So today we've got some Strongsville students that are going to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about the programs that they're in. These are all senior students, correct guys? So we actually, when we talk about Polaris, it's comprised of three separate divisions. We have a main campus, which you're here tonight, and Strongsville has a little over 130 students here in main campus, juniors and seniors. We have satellite programs. Those are in all of our associate districts, and at Strongsville City Schools, we serve between middle school and high school a little over 1,000 students. Those are our teachers in your buildings teaching your students. And also we have an adult education population, and we serve over 7,000 adults throughout a year. So tonight you're going to see a lot of adults in classes too as we go through. So let's start. Come on up.
My name is Owen Healy, and I'm in the Aeronautics program. And next year I'm enrolled and accepted to Pittsburgh Institute of Aviation to obtain my A&P license.
That's wonderful. Great job.
Hi, my name's Kevin Weeder. I'm in the Business Professionals and Office Tech program. I'm currently undecided but thinking and heading towards Tri-C right now.
Great job.
Hello everyone, my name is Maddie Pelfey and I'm in criminal justice and my goal is to go to college and study intelligence.
Great job.
My name's Hayata Mabuzaria. I'm in the medical professions program and I plan on going to Cleveland State and majoring in biochemistry.
That's a great job.
My name's Sonia Kovac. I'm in the Culinary Arts and Restaurant Management program. Next year, I'm planning on going to Sullivan University for Culinary Arts.
Great job.
So feel free, as we're on our tour, to ask any questions of the students. They have some questions that we've already asked them to think about and talk. They're going to showcase the programs that they're in, but also some programs that we want you to see the variety of what we have here at Polaris. So if that's all right, we'd like to give you a tour.
So I appreciate everyone, and I just wanted to highlight for the people in the community, all 5 of these students are Strongsville students. They're Strongsville seniors. It goes without saying how proud of you we are, but they decided to come back because they want to tell everybody about Polaris as much as we want to hear about Polaris. And I think that's a good message for the community to hear, that we have great students that are going to continue their learning and in college, whatever level that is, but they've gotten a nice step up and a little bit of what we call the Polaris advantage by coming to Polaris and starting for 2 years there. So we're going to go on a recess, and we're going to have a great tour, and then we'll be back for the rest of our meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Miko, we do need a motion to recess.
Oh, is it in the?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So moved.
I'm glad someone's looking at the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Grozan, second by Mrs. Hausum. Any discussion, other than I forgot to call for the motion? Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, can, George, would you take the roll?
Mr. Grozan?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
And Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Enter into recess at 7:08.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to resume our meeting at 8:25. Returning to our agenda, the next order of business is our district goals. At every meeting, we remind ourselves what our 3 goals are, and that's student achievement, financial prudence, and community engagement. And every decision we make is measured on those 3 goals. Number 6 is public comment. I do not see any public comment. Do you have a public comment?
Yes, I do.
Can you go to the,
Yes.
and tell us your name and address?
Hi, my name is George Grozan. I live at 16461 Hampton Chase. We have a little bit of an issue. As you can see by the slip and the picture, the sidewalk going through the woods for Whitney is a little bit low. And it's frozen at times. So me and Mr. Breckner are gonna go review the building, not next Friday, but the Friday after. And we're going to try to support it and, heave it up a little bit, maybe 3 or 4 inches, something like that. But Jim Kaminsky was the one who decided that he wanted to make this a motion or make it an improvement. So me and Mr. Breckner will go take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, George, and I'm sure Steve's looking forward to taking a look at it, but the thing that'll be neat is when he comes back to us and tells us how internally we were able to take care of this with our staff, and I'm looking forward to hearing the results. Next is superintendent's report.
Thank
Dr. Ryba.
Thank you, Mr. Micko. Just wanted to give an update on a discussion item I've provided for the board, an update on our strategic plan, our Strong Schools 2020 plan. As you know, in the summertime, the board at that time got together, and we had the same goals every year of academic achievement and growth, financial prudence, and community engagement, but the action steps below that change. And so what you have in front of you is the 3 goals and the action steps that were decided upon this year. And based on the work with our directors and our team, looked in just kind of high-level qualifying where those should go based on the work that's been done this far. And so as you could see, that we've qualified these as successes to celebrate, and how we take a look at that is areas that we really have made significant growth. The work is in motion, it's sustainable, and we're on a good path for where we want to go into June, and that's in green. In blue, which is kind of in the center, is actions in progress. Things have been initiated, but there's still some more heavy lifting to go through until the end of the year. And then in yellow are some areas that we need to enhance, whether it's just in timing. Some of these things are set to go in at different times, or whether it's we needed to recapture where we were and clarify where we were. So if you start on the front page that says academic achievement and growth, it's the one with just one graph on it. I just wanted to highlight for you some successes that we've had and some work that we're doing. So develop the Mustang model, or the model Mustang competencies within our students. So one of the things we've done this year, and Jenny's led this work in a variety of committees, is develop those 5 competencies at the state of the school, as you saw last night, whether it be resilience or innovation or empowerment or global or collaboration within our students. So every school building has selected 2 of those competencies to focus on, and not only build within our students, but take a look at how we're modeling those as adults. In terms of growing a positive district by our living into our core values, as you know, we have our Mustang mindset is our culture passport. It details what we believe, how those beliefs drive our behavior, and the outcome that those behaviors result in. We finished our R-Factor training with all staff, and we are also, that's not just a one and done training. Every month at a staff meetings, we have a district team that comes together and provides ongoing training for our staff at their monthly staff meetings. So February was a refresher of Get Your Mind Right, which is one of the disciplines. March is going to be a refresher on owning our 20 square feet and how we deal with the challenges of other people that are the predominant event that we all face and how we can have a disciplined response. In terms of project-based learning, we talked about that last night at State of the Schools, but we held our first training this past summer, trained 25 teachers to implement one project this school year. That group will continue to go on, and the expectation for next school year will be they will implement 2 projects. And then this summer, we'll also be training another cohort of 25 teachers in project-based learning. It's an intensive 3-day training to expand project-based learning in our district. In terms of expanding access and utilization of makerspace, that's been something that Mr. Binkley has been focused on and is working at the elementary, middle school, and high school. We have to say that probably our middle school is the utilization, wouldn't you agree, Dave, is at its highest with how we get all kids to have access to the makerspace. Dave's worked at the elementary level to have monthly themes that are implemented and skills that are taught as our students go through on a weekly basis through either their learning.com time or makerspace time. And we're still working on problem-solving access at the high school level and utilization at the high school level. The one thing that Dave has done, we are actually tracking usage at all 3 levels. We have it at the preschool as well, but at the elementary, middle school, and high school, we're tracking usage. We've identified spaces that are being underutilized, and now the steps are how do we problem solve and increase utilization, specifically at the high school. And at the elementary school, what we're focusing on is not students accessing the makerspace in the media center, but we have movable carts and resources that can move into the classroom that are not being utilized to the level we would hope. And so that's something that Dave's going to be working on. I am going to skip around. I'm not going to highlight every single item, but moving down into the blue section, Jenny has done we have a significant amount of work in terms of grading practices in the district in grades 6 to 12. So she has a committee of representative staff that's taking a look at what does a grade mean, how are we grading, how do we look at retakes and redos for our students, how do we define mastery, how do we say that a grade is a truthful and accurate reflection of student mastery of the content versus some of those other things that sometimes get floated into grades. So she's done a tremendous amount of work there. In terms of deepening an appreciation for our diversity and equity and inclusion, as I shared last night and have shared with the community, we do have a diversity council that we're starting to take a look at the experience of all students in our district. And our first meeting is going to be next Tuesday, December. I'm going back in time. March 10th. We're running the same meeting. It's an open source meeting. Whoever wants to come can come. We had over 100 people sign up. So we're going to do a 7:30 a.m. meeting for those folks that their schedule works best in the morning, and a 6 p.m. Meeting at the central office or the board office for those that want to come at that time. And so that's going to kick off the work there. And then finally, in terms of STEM and STEAM, Dave again has led that work. He's done a tremendous amount of work of looking at the STEM and STEAM designation. Unfortunately, there's some challenges with the application process and the qualification process that make it extremely difficult for a public school district, especially a large public school district, to qualify. And Dave's been advocating to the state level in terms of possible changes. Excuse me. And if you look at the list of schools that are STEM designated, you will notice that it's a lot of private, parochial, or smaller schools because of the criteria. So we're working through that. What we've asked Dave and his team to do is to do an audit and say where have we qualified and where have we not, and what's that delta, and how do we bridge that gap if we can based on our structure. And then in the terms of the actions to enhance, the one of preparing high school graduates who are enrolled, that they have a clear pathway. We feel that we've done a very good job in terms of what we do for college. But we're working currently, as we talked about again last night, in what we're doing for our career pathways. And really what we had to do, the reason this is in yellow, is the evaluation criteria that we used, that we developed, was really ambiguous. And so we, about a month ago, we sat down and said, really, where do we want our kids to get to? Where do we want to focus our attention? And we're focusing our attention on developing a career-based pathway. And so those are the highlights that I wanted to share for academic achievement and growth. I know there's a few that I didn't mention. Are there any questions or clarifications or ones that I didn't mention that you'd like to hear more about?
Cameron, I was going to say, we all know how important our exercise in developing that premier culture is. We have some new board members, and we have some old board members who need those refreshers. So if you can, along with the rest of the district, if you can share the R Factor training with the board, I think that'd be beneficial for all of us.
Absolutely. I'll do that. Thank you. So if you flip it to the back in terms of financial prudence and community engagement, starting at the top, some of the work, the successes that we've had so far in the financial improvement is a platform for district purchasing. So what George and his team have done, have provided, if you could think if it's the Amazon of the school district through our e-finance platform, where folks can go in and they can say, you know, I need to buy 3 staplers. Type that into the search engine. It will look through all of our vendors. It will find the best deal, the best product. You can compare various products. You can develop a shopping cart. You could put that in your shopping cart, share it with the personnel that would process that internally, so our building secretary. And the one beautiful thing is once that shopping cart is approved, it automatically creates the requisition and the purchase order electronically. And so, George, we're close to, if you want to share a little highlight on that, since that's your hard work down there.
So it's a third-party software that we had to integrate with eFinance. And we spent a lot of time in the past 2 months getting it where we needed to be, working with our vendors to get their catalogs on this platform. And last week, we went live with it. We're able, live in the sense that it's ready to go. Kyle, the assistant treasurer, is going to start training secretaries over the next 2 weeks. And I think Dawn placed her first order on it today. So it goes out to the marketplace. You go out to the marketplace, you build your shopping cart, it integrates it back into eFinance, and it builds the requisition automatically. So it's saving secretaries time from building that requisition. And then it routes it to the approval process. And then once it's fully approved, and I convert it from a requisition to a purchase order, and the purchase order is printed, it automatically sends it back to the vendor to process. So it saves the secretary time again from going out and placing the order again, and so it's kind of automating that way to save time. So excited that it's finally up and running. And the one nice thing that we'll see that we can generate reports is called an ELSA report. We can see the savings that we generate by the decision that employees made by whether they switched to a cheaper product or if they did not, and it will show us their spending habits.
Thank you, George. In addition to the other successes were 2 items that dealt with fundraising. So George and I have worked with a variety of external groups that fundraise in support of district programs. And so we have created fundraising protocols and guidelines. Those have been shared with all of our affiliated support organizations, and those will be implemented starting this spring going into next fall. And in addition to that, Dan has led the work to coordinate fundraising efforts in the district. So he's audited all of our internal fundraisers. He has those on a schedule, and now he's ready to work with our, again, partner groups in their fundraising so that we can be cognizant of the different similar fundraising efforts, how much we're taxing certain groups of families or parents or community members with that. So this is a large effort that has needed to be done, and both efforts will have clear, developed guidelines for fundraising for internal and external groups, and then enhanced coordination moving forward. In terms of some of the work that's still in progress, we set up a system for departmental reviews to make sure that we're being effective but also efficient. So Steve and Jenny and I have been meeting throughout the last months. We've selected a handful of employee groups and classifications within our district. And we're in the process of looking at some of the essential questions that we've created for each of those employee groups and reviewing those again to make sure that we have, Mr. Micko said this at our retreat, what is our optimum staffing level? And then we can make decisions on whether if we're at that, wonderful. If we're not, are we in the position to move forward and get to that optimum staffing level, whatever department that may be in. So we've created the system and structure to do that, and we're implementing that with probably 5 or 6 different aspects of our employees' workforce this year. In terms of record management, We've really updated our records management and records disposal procedures. So what that means is through our approved records commission, there's certain records that can be destroyed after so many periods of time. We did that at a district level, and not only have we disposed of old records that we don't need to keep, but they are properly tagged, so we know in 2021, here's the next set of records that could be disposed of. And Kyle, our assistant treasurer, and office staff support from the treasurer's office have also gone out to the buildings and trained the secretaries, and actually spent a lot of time at the high school because there's so many records at the high school, getting them up to speed. The next part of the work is to look at how do we digitize our records. How do we move from a paper-based filing system to a digital filing system? And again, Steve and George have started to work with various companies and research what that could look like in our district. I mean, those are some of the highlights for the financial prudence goal. Again, unless there's any questions or items that I did not mention that you'd like to hear a little bit more about. Lastly, I wanted to highlight community engagement. So one of the goals that or action steps we had was to increase opportunities to connect and engage with a representative group of our staff. We've called it our Superintendent's Advisory Team. So the good news is we had over 70 people, or 60 to 70 people, that wanted to be a part of that with me. The difficult news is to get that to be a workable number. We couldn't take everybody. So we ended up developing a group that was focused with preschool, elementary, and district staff. And then we have another group that is focused with secondary staff and district staff. We've already met twice. They've given clear feedback about areas in our district that they think we can work collaboratively on to improve. And so we've got work groups working through that process right now. And they've just been an invaluable resource thus far. In terms of the blue areas and actions that are still in progress, and we started our work last night in developing our next strategic plan, our focus plan. We got feedback from our community, but we will be gearing up significantly probably after spring break. Again, inviting in more community, parent, staff participation to look at where the district's going to go, whether it be in facilities, opportunities, curriculum, universally designed learning, or our success measures in the next 3 to 5 years. And then finally, we looked at how do we increase engagement opportunities between our district and our stakeholders. There's a few things under that area, but 2 that we've implemented thus far. The first one is our breakfast with the superintendent. We've had 2 of those so far. We had one on our finances, and then we had a meeting with our faith-based leaders a couple weeks ago just to build those connections with various community groups. And then finally, Dan's been working with every senior center or assisted living facility in the Strongsville community about working with them and providing one opportunity to connect between the district and that senior living facility. So it may be that we have students going over there to play board games. It may be that we have the art club going over there to do some arts and crafts with the residents, or a music group going over, or we have the spring musical coming up, so we're coordinating getting residents to come and see the dress rehearsal. And so we're really excited about that. It's been an idea that's been on the plate for a few years, and really proud of the work Dan's done to bring that to life. And our community partners in the assisted or senior living facilities have been really open and excited about the partnership. So that concludes community engagement and my update on where we're at with the 2020 plan. Again, unless there's any questions or additional feedback.
Any questions? I will piggyback off the State of the Schools, which was a great event, and I appreciate all of Cameron's time, but it showed that it was a team effort. It showed that everybody in the district is committed to the progress of the district and growing the district. But I was also very happy to see that we're doing what I would call, we're going about it in the right way. There was a presentation, there was a time for questions, and then there was a time for us to gather input, to gather information, to solicit from our stakeholders what's important to them. So I was really happy to see that process bear some fruit, and it will serve us well as we craft the focus plan as our next strategy. So I was wanted to give out that kudos, and we'll continue to have those opportunities for stakeholders to participate. And it's that avenue that I think is important. Next week, Jenny will be having a similar event so that we can get stakeholder input on our next high school principal. And we're going to continue that vein as part of our culture, so it's good to hear, and we'll look forward to good things.
Thank you, Mr. Micko. Next, we have our operations manager, Steve Breckner, who would like to talk with the board about transportation and Lake Ridge Academy. Steve?
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to update you on transportation from Strongsville City School buildings to Lake Ridge Academy. Just update you on what was done in the past, what's being done now, and then steps I would like to take in the future. Last year, we went about the procedure of looking at declaring Lake Ridge Academy as impractical when it came to transportation and transporting students. We had a process that we went through last year where we put out the notice. We allowed parents to respond to that, and then some parents came to a board meeting and expressed their concern about not doing that, and then also the timing of that they didn't feel was fair. At that point, a decision was made to transport for this current year, but to start the process sooner of evaluating. So this year, what we've done is we did official state timing, and that's done with a district coordinator from the Ohio Department of Transportation. And what we found was that Kinsner Elementary, Strongsville Middle School, Strongsville High School, and Moraski Elementary were all a half hour or longer to get to. And just to remind everyone, because you, I'm sure, did not look at the rules as closely as I have, it doesn't matter what Google says. It matters what the official timing is, and that starts at the school door of the building that the student would attend if they were attending our schools. So if you live in the Moraski area, you go from the Moraski door to the door of Lake Ridge Academy, whatever that timing is, that's the official timing. And once that's done by the state, unless somebody redraws interstates, unless somebody does another road that would make it more advantageous or faster, this is not done again. So we've done this officially. This is now over a half an hour, over 30 minutes. So per Ohio Revised Code 3327.01, students attending Lake Ridge Academy from those schools are not eligible for transportation services or payment in lieu of services since the travel time exceeds 30 minutes.
Since it exceeds 30 minutes, we don't go to Ed's, we don't go to Ignatius because there's just too much traffic. Lake Ridge, I know where that's at. It's just too far. I mean, Padua a different story, you know, the other community schools are another story, but why are we processing, why are we transporting children to Lake Ridge Academy for this year?
Because we had not done official timings until this year. So for
Okay.
us to pull the rug out from underneath them, so to speak, last year without going through the proper procedures, we felt it was not fair to those students because they still are Strongsville residents. However, this year, I don't feel that's the case. I feel like we've done our homework. I feel like we've updated our procedures to where we have the data now to say, this isn't something that we feel we shouldn't do anymore. This is something per Ohio Revised Code that we're not to do any longer. The law is very clear about that. I will tell you that because of this, and there really is no gray area in this, it's over half an hour, and I read to you exactly the last paragraph from the report that goes from the Ohio Transportation to us. Letters have been sent home to those parents that are going to those schools to say, effective beginning of the school year next year, we will not be transporting students from these schools to Lake Ridge, that would attend these schools to Lake Ridge Academy. We have an updated roster So that information went to all of the parents that we are aware of on that roster. It was also sent to the transportation director or similar title at Lake Ridge Academy, and she is aware of that. I've been communicating with her since we started this evaluation process. Dr. Ryba and I met with her and then the head of the schools there earlier in the fall and told them this is the process that we're going to use, so there were no secrets. This has been very transparent between the two organizations, so that there's no ambiguity and there's no, nobody can say we weren't prepared for this, is the whole goal of this year. To answer your question more bluntly, I just felt like it was also, and I concurred with Dr. Ryba, which is always a smart thing to do, it just wouldn't have been fair last year. We weren't giving parents enough time to coordinate. And as you know, as a parent, many parents on the board, I think we would all sympathize to that. And I feel like waiting a year, maybe we did when we did transport, where in some cases obviously we didn't have to, but I feel like we gained the validity we needed to make this decision because we did what we needed to do. Does that answer your?
No, it completely answers my question. And I mean, we don't go to Ed's, we don't go to Ignatius because it's closer to downtown, and that's all 30 minutes. And Lake Ridge Academy is far over 30 minutes. So I trust you in what you're doing, and I agree with you that next year we don't have transportation to Lake Ridge Academy.
Now, in saying that, there is one school that came under it. We had Sarar Elementary School, which was 29 minutes and 27 seconds. So at that point, what is my intention to do, unless the board directs differently, it's my intention to send letters to those parents to say that we're going to be evaluating how many students are being transported, what the cost is. And much like last year, for those of you that were in your positions last year, I'll be able to come up with a cost analysis of this is what it costs a Strongsville student to ride our buses versus this is what it would cost to transport students on this bus. And it really comes down to the formula is how many kids are going to be on the bus. So that's something that we're going to be evaluating. The letter will reflect that we have not made a decision yet as a district, because that's something that needs board approval before it can be decided upon either way. But that we are evaluating again this year. And again, I think because of the way we've done it, it will be no surprise. And whatever the board decides to do with the information I'm able to provide in April, we can then get that decision out to parents again in a timely fashion to where they're not behind the 8 ball when it comes to getting transportation.
Steve, so looking at the students that would go to Sarar, only those students that would go to Sarar and are attending Lake Ridge would be eligible for transportation. And what you're considering is, since it was likely such a small number of students, that in lieu of transportation, you would recommend payment in lieu of that transportation.
Correct.
Now,
That's what I'll be factoring in.
What about the question that sometimes comes up of, okay, if we're transporting to Sarar and my child goes to the high school or middle school or Maraski, can I drive my child to Sarar and that one bus can take all the Lake Ridge kids from Sarar to Lake Ridge?
That's a great question. I hear that often, and the answer, quite honestly, it's very clear, no. We cannot do that. We're not able to provide a charter bus type scenario. To be quite frank, if that was the law, if that was the intent of the law, then it would state that explicitly. Every school district would then say, bring me to the every private school or parochial school to the northernmost, it would say, come to the northernmost point, we'll take a bus right there. Same thing for east, west, and south. That's not the way the law is written. It's my recommendation from reading the laws, that is not what the intent of it is. The intent is front of the building from where you would attend if you were attending Strongsville City Schools to front of the building of where you're choosing to attend. The reason why, again, this is a consideration for Sarar is because it came under the half hour, And it's the way the law is written, it's the right thing to do, to now evaluate and come back to you with the data, with my recommendation in April, and then have the decision from the board.
Steve, how many students in our district go to Lake Ridge Academy?
Right now with the current roster, now I will say not all of these students may ride the bus. I just got the roster. I'm looking at right around 25 students.
Thank you.
Do you have the breakdown for what we're talking about at Sarar?
I do. Would you like that number now? 3.
3, is that what you said?
Correct.
Steve, I know you talked about the communication to the students that are currently going there. Is there, if the vote is to not, I guess to go along with your plan, or I'm sorry, if the vote is to go along with your plan, do you feel it necessary to communicate that to the entire district or only to the ones that have registered, I guess, to Lake Academy?
As far as the Sarar?
Would it be Sarar, just the communication in general? You know, if a parent didn't send their kid there last year, but is considering it for next year, they may be on the pretense that transportation is provided.
And that's the letter that's going to go out, is just saying it's being reviewed. And then I would send a follow-up letter once the board's made their decision to those specific, I have all of the parents and their specific addresses, but I could send something blanket out if that's what the board chooses.
Okay, that's why I was asking,
To say
like,
that
outside
this
of that,
is-
just in case there was people that were considering that.
We can definitely put something out saying that it's declared impractical transportation to Lake Ridge Academy. We would just make sure, and I would meet with Lake Ridge Academy's transportation director or similar title, because there's a bunch of, there's forms that need to be filled out. The law does state that the parents have to approach us, and that they're supposed to get direction from the non-parochial or charter school to do that. But we have in the past, not that we're breaking the laws, we're just encouraging and we give the template to the schools. Again, they are Strongsville's residents. They are students that maybe don't attend our schools, but we need to be as transparent as possible in this process so that it's always above board.
And Mr. Roberts, I think that's a great idea for this transition period. And then what happens is our parochial or private partners, once they are aware of this, they are the initiators of the communication. So, you know, if a prospective Lake Ridge Academy student comes in, they will be able to say, if you live in these boundary areas, the district does not provide transportation. And so like there's other parochial schools in the area that do not receive transportation. So when they look to enroll, they are the initiator of that communication.
Okay, thank you.
So just as some background, you know, we, as a board, we deal with these issues every year on a consistent basis. Job number one is for us to be in compliance with state law, and that's that 30-minute rule, and we follow that 30-minute rule. And St. Ed's, St. Ignatius, various high schools fall outside of that 30-minute rule, which is why we don't provide transportation to those high schools. And you know, as Steve alluded to, it's a very specified timing process. I know that different people drive in different ways and might make it to Ignatius in under 30 minutes or St. Ed's in under 30 minutes. It's not whether you can speed and hit all the red lights properly. It's whether the timing trial, if that's what we want to call it from the state, makes it to whether it's a grade school or high school, makes it to that other school within 30 minutes. So step one is to make sure we follow state law. Step two is for us to balance the needs of individual parents and their children with the needs of the taxpayer as a whole. And you know, we come up with the fancy words of declaring it impractical. What that means is it doesn't make a lot of financial sense for us to send a diesel school bus with all that expense to take 2 or 3 students. And we have a number of elementary schools that we do that with every year. And we make that determination, and we make a payment in lieu of to help offset that, recognizing that the amount that's prescribed by the state usually doesn't offset what parents will have to spend to transport their children. Are there any other questions on the process, et cetera? I think you have a good plan in place, Steve. What I'd ask is that, again, we're looking at it Lake Ridge right now. Last year, we looked at Holy Name and Incarnate Word, et cetera. Be nice to have an update for the board for all of those transportation issues.
Okay.
So that when we're considering Lake Ridge, we can see it as a whole and have that information. I think that would benefit everyone and make sure we're making wise decisions and, you know, be able to say with the parents why we're making it, that we're not, I mean, I think all of us would love to be able to provide transportation to our citizens and our taxpayers within the confines of our financial prudence, and that's what we're dealing with.
All right.
Any other requests for Steve?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. And since we already had the human resource report, that concludes my report.
Okay, next on our agenda is the consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of the consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda with asterisks are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests items to be removed. Are there any items from the consent calendar to be removed? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Grozan, second by Mr. Roberts. George?
Mr. Grozan?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Number 9, Board of Education other. Do we have any others?
Just the jockeys and juleps. That's an important component of the Strongsville Educational Foundation. And we would really respect and consider the idea that everybody show up, everybody please come, and just have a good time.
Cameron, what was the date again?
It's the first Saturday of May.
May 2nd.
May 2nd. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Dawn.
Tickets are on sale as of yesterday on their website.
And where can they get those tickets?
Strongsville Education Foundation website.
Excellent.
I
Okay.
do have one, Richard. The mayor is giving a State of the City address this coming Tuesday. There's a luncheon as part of that if you're interested, or you can just show up around noon. There'll be spots in the back for people to just come if they want to hear that. That's at the rec center. And you can also check out strongsville.org for details.
Any others? Okay, I have 2 others. One, I wanted to thank everybody here at Polaris. I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I think I can safely speak for everyone that we had a educational and an awesome tour of the new facility and saw all the many great things that Polaris offers. I really want to compliment all the students. I liked the fact that the tour was led by our own Strongsville students, and they all, without exception, were great students with poise and spoke well and had passion about their programs and passion about the school that they've chosen to go to. So we thank them for that, and we thank Superintendent Timmons for being a gracious host. And then the other one, I do want to comment. It's important that we recognize that we did have a tragic circumstance at the middle school. We had a young man take his own life, and it's important that we all recognize that. It's important that we all keep him and his family in our thoughts and prayers, and keep the Strongsville Middle School in your thoughts and prayers. It certainly gives everyone pause and lets us remember the things that are important and the things that are not so important, but we do recognize that we have a loss of a young life at the middle school, and it's important for us to remember that. We do have need for executive session. Cameron?
To consider the employment of a public employee or official and to review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of employment.
Any other topics? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Grozan, second by Mr. Roberts. Any discussion? George?
Mr. Grozan?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes. Motion passes. We will go into executive session at 9:10 PM. We have no anticipation of any business afterwards. Thank you very much and have a good evening.